Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Episode 2 on this delicious 2 for Tuesday at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Besbris, and I'm bringing him in right out of the chute on this Specialty Tuesday midday show. I am joined by my good buddy. You know him as Kingy. You can find him on the interwebs at AdamKing91. And we have a special little lightning round show coming up today. But first, I got to do the bit. Good morning tomorrow, friend.
A good morning from the future. Spoiler, nothing's changed. The election results will stick. And I don't know what else is going on in the world. Not much.
I don't think there was much question on that front. It was a lot like when the Celtics play the Trailblazers, if we're going to make an NBA comparison on this one. So I thought, and everybody that watches the show knows that I like to come up with absurd, different ideas on a week-to-week basis and just kind of demo them, see how they go, see if it sticks, see if people ended up liking the idea or not. And that is what today's show is going to be. So, Adam, you're part of the test dummy setup on this one. First of all, everybody, please take a moment to like the video. I know you're thinking about it, so there's that button. Just go hit it. Subscribe, however you're taking in the various measures of content, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever. 5-star reviews also great. I'm on Twitter at Dan Besbris, and Old Man Squad is how you can find that one on Twitter. What I need to figure out is where we're going to slot in the ad read, but it's not going to be right at the top because I want to tell everybody what's going on first. Today, I have isolated 17 players inside the top 50 in pre-rank, not current rank, pre-rank top 50. So, 50 most relevant players leading up to the season. Some interesting things going on with their fantasy numbers so far this year. And Adam and I are going to decide whether or not it's real, it's fake, and if we can do anything about it. And we're going to do 2 minutes. I'm not going to set an actual timer, but I am going to be sort of looking at it on each one. So we got 34 minutes on the dot, not on the dot, of content for today's show. Adam, are you ready?
I am. And I have no idea what players you're going to present. So let's go.
I promise you it's not going to be as earth-shattering as I tried to make it sound during that preview. First name on the list is James Harden, who right now is having a perfectly reasonable season. It's not bad. He's number 32 in 9-cat, on average of 21 points, 8.5 rebounds, 9 assists, 2.4 defensive stats, 2.5 3-pointers, 86% high volume at the free throw line, but 36% from the field and 5.2 turnovers per game. Adam, are those numbers going to improve, and are they going to improve enough for us to do anything with this information?
Look, I think his percentages probably increase a bit. I think he'll get over 40% from the field. We were aware that his scoring is not going to be what it was when he was in Houston. But the other numbers are really good. We knew he'd be assists. We knew he'd be 20 points. He'd hit a lot of threes. He'd get to the free throw line. I think he's sort of doing what we thought he would. I have no idea what his rank is or anything like that at the moment, but this feels about right. I did pose something, I think it was on Twitter. I don't know, maybe it wasn't Twitter, maybe it was Discord, about trading, and this was before the Pacers last game, but could you try and trade Harden for Tyrese Haliburton? Would that be something that people would do? And it was sort of split. I think some people thought yes, some people thought no. I think this is probably what we see from Harden. Even with Kawhi back, I think Harden's numbers will hover in this range.
The amazing thing, too, is if you're punting his 2 bad categories, he's number 3 in all of fantasy basketball. So there's this very weird disconnect on what his current rank is and what it sort of feels like his rank is, because head-to-head players, a lot are punting at least one of those categories, sometimes both. So my take on this one is, I think the field goal percent comes up a little. I would hope that turnovers are under 5 at some point. Maybe you see the defensive stats come down a tad. Maybe not. I don't know. That is a set of numbers that he's done in the past. It's just been a little bit. So my feeling on James Harden is he's not really a buy low or a sell high right now, because depending on who's looking at him, like there's a Harden rose-colored lens thing going on where if you have him in roto, you're like, oh my God, what's happening here? And if you have him in head-to-head, I think you're probably fine with it. But generally speaking, I think his rank probably comes up a tiny bit, and I don't think there's anything we can do with that information. The next player on the list, I'm keeping us, man, train is on time today. Anthony Edwards is the next one on the board, and I think everybody knows where I'm going with this one. Adam, Anthony Edwards is hitting not one, not two. I'm going to do a LeBron bit here. He's hitting 5.4. There's the number for folks that are watching. 3-pointers per game on almost 12 attempts per game. And he's shooting 46% from downtown. Now his free throw number's fallen off a cliff. So where do we think Anthony Edwards' numbers go from here? And is there anything actionable we can do with those expectations?
I don't think the 5.4 3-pointers stick. I think they probably come down. I hope they come down. He just, I know he's taking a lot of threes. He's still playing really well, but he needs to be getting to the basket a bit more. I mean, he's so athletic. He seems to have, I don't know, made a conscious effort to want to hit 3-pointers, which is great when they're going in, but he's going to have some off shooting nights. I think he should just not revert back totally, but cut those attempts down to maybe 10. In terms of what his numbers do, I don't know. I mean, he's not someone I drafted. He was going too high in drafts for me. He was going sort of late first, early second, even mid second. I see him as sort of a back end second, and his ranking is
I can get this for you.
34 in 9-cat, which sort of backs up what we were saying. So in terms of, is he a buy low, sell high? Probably fractionally a buy low, maybe, but I sort of put him probably in that Harden basket as well, where you can't do a lot.
Yep, I'm totally with you on that one. He's a very small buy low, but I don't think that someone's going to give him away for what we would want to actually spend on him. Next name on the list, and this is kind of a weird one. I don't think anybody's really talking about the fact that there's been a slight downtick, and that's Donovan Mitchell, who's seen his scoring and assists drop off season over season, and I can scroll down so we can see that more clearly. Points are down this year from 26.5 to 23.7. Assists are down from 6 to under 4. Efficiency, all that stuff is almost exactly the same year over year. Is Donovan Mitchell no longer a first rounder, Adam? And is there anything actionable we can do with this? I keep putting you on the spot. I'll go first on this one so you don't have to take first on every one of these things. Donovan Mitchell is number 32 in 9-cat right now. And I actually don't think he's a first rounder on a per game basis anymore. I think he's probably a second rounder. So if you have him, I'd be willing to I'd be willing to give him up for a second rounder coming back if somebody was willing to do that. Although Donovan Mitchell's a pretty safe second rounder anyway. I would no longer give up as much to get him as I would to start the season. What is your feeling on Donovan Mitchell? Real, mirage? What direction does he go from here?
Much the same. I didn't have him in my first round before the season. I think he's probably overachieved a little bit the last year or two. Darius Garland is obviously playing a lot better this year than he has, so that's going to impact Donovan Mitchell. Evan Mobley has taken some steps forward. That's going to impact Donovan Mitchell. So, for me, I had him as like second rounder in that Devin Booker range. Is he a buy low, sell high? I guess technically he might be a buy low. The only thing is I think anyone who drafted him probably spent almost a first-round pick on him, so you're not really going to want to take a top 25 player back. So he is potentially a small buy low, but it's going to be hard to pull that off, I think, with the managers, whoever's got him, wanting a lot in return.
Yeah, I think he probably does get a little bit better from here. His minutes are down because the Cavs have been blowing a lot of teams out as well. And we can probably use that information to our advantage. Next name on the list is, it's Jalen Brunson, and I'm trying to pull him up on the screen for folks that are watching on YouTube. Jalen Brunson And I'll go first on this one because I was a Jalen Brunson big fade guy leading up to the season. And so far, that's kind of the way it's played out. But how does it go from here? Currently, Brunson is ranked 72nd, still scoring 25 points. That's not bad. Percentages are fine. 6.5 assists is also fine, but 19 shots a game. That's down from last year. And we knew it would be down from the end of last season when he was taking about 25 shots a game. The steals are also on the relatively low side, although that's not a big number for him either. Brunson, I think, is actually a sell, and let me explain why, because that makes no sense on its surface to take a guy who's 72nd, drafted near 20. I still think you're close enough to the start of the season where you could sell Jalen Brunson and get a third rounder back, and I think I would do it because the farther you get from draft day, the less likely you're going to be able to getting a top 30 guy back from him, because I think he probably finishes near 40, and I think you might still be able to get somebody better than that in return, because 25 points and 7 assists does kind of catch people's eyes. And the Knicks play faster this year. They can't defend as well, just the personnel. So this is the weird sell before it's low. It's a brand new I've just invented it on the spot. I'm a sell before it's low on Jalen Brunson. What do you think his numbers look like going forward, and what do you do with him, if anything?
Yeah, another guy I didn't really draft anywhere because I thought he was going a little bit too high. I don't know. It's tough with the Knicks because we know that one injury, like if Mikal Bridges goes down, if Anunoby goes down, Brunson, everyone is just going to have to do more because they have no depth that they can call on. So the value will fluctuate for these Knicks guys. As you said, Jalen Brunson's steal numbers have been stupidly low, and he's not a big defensive guy, but we're still at a point in the season where it's such a small sample size that if he has 3 games in a row where he gets 8 steals, which he could do, he could get 3-3-2 and then nothing for a week, his rank will go from whatever it is, 72 up to 35 very quickly because those other numbers are going to hold. Look, I think if you can try and move him, you could consider it, but I think people are going to look at where he's ranked. It depends on the managers in your league, as it always does, and how savvy they are. But I do think a little bit like Donovan Mitchell, he was being overvalued. So this could be a good time to sell, and it could be that you could wait a week and he might be the 34th ranked player, and then is a good time to sell. So, but you never know. Like there's risks with every trade in fantasy.
I'm going to loop this one right back around to you. The next name on the list is Tyrese Haliburton. Where do you think he finishes? Because I think we can all agree that his start to the season was one of the most obvious buy lows in the history of mankind. Because dude couldn't throw anything in the bucket. But does he get to the first round? I had him projected as a turn guy to start the year. And I'll admit, I'm not super confident that he gets to that point. But, he was going like 5th in some drafts, and I thought that seems a little bit crazy. Is it still a buy low? Is it similar to what I just talked about with Brunson? Could you potentially sell after the big ball game and get a second rounder, and would you be satisfied with that? What do you think this season brings for Tyrese Haliburton? I'll let you start this one.
I think he'll be better than what he's been. That last game was finally what managers have been hoping for. Does he get to the first round? I have my doubts. I think maybe he gets to top 15. So I think he'll be close when we get to the end of the season. Would you try and sell him? He's coming off that really good game. He could put some more together. I mean, they are a little bit thin in the backcourt with no Nembhard there. TJ McConnell's had a bit of an illness, but looks okay now. So it could be that we get a really good week here of Tyrese Haliburton. And this is another one, I guess, where anyone that drafted him, as you said, took him as high as 5 or 6 in drafts. And are they willing at this point, this early in the season, to give up Tyrese Haliburton for a top 20 player, a lot of them probably wouldn't. I wouldn't. Like if someone offered me a top 20 player for Haliburton and I drafted him, I'd probably just dig my heels in and say, no, look, I'm going to just ride this out and go down with the ship if necessary.
Yep, I think I'm basically there as well. Next name on the list. I hope folks are enjoying this. I'm really trying to hustle us along, and I have a lot of players to talk about. Kyrie freaking Irving is currently number 5 in fantasy basketball. His efficiency has been outrageously good so far this year. We got that nice steals number as well. My question is not whether or not he can put up big numbers. We know Kyrie can post numbers. My question for you, Adam, is do you sell on Kyrie on the health concerns, or do you ride it out and just hope that this is a slightly better year? Because dude looks really, really good for the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's all about health. I think we were all of the opinion that he is still a top 10, top 8 per game player, much like Kawhi Leonard. But how many games does he play? Does he play 50? Does he play 70? So you got him at a discount. Would you try to move on from him? Well, I don't know. I mean, if you drafted him knowing that there's an injury risk, he hasn't had an injury thus far, you should be prepared for that. I don't know. I'd probably just hold him, and because I just don't think you're going to get another top 5, top 8 player back. I think people are going to go, well, if you're looking to move him, you're obviously worried about the injuries, so I'm going to lowball you here. So I'd probably just hold, I think. I am
100% in agreement. I want to hold Kyrie Irving. When he kept falling in drafts, it became one of the easier decisions, especially on the roto side. His numbers are insane. His efficiency is amazing, and that's been the case for half a decade now. And the fact that he's gotten the first 10 games under his belt and we haven't missed one is just a really nice sign. At every game he plays, you get like a 1 more game buffer on whatever is going to come down the pike for him. This one's kind of an interesting one, and it's flown a little bit under the radar. He's had a great start to the year. That's not the issue. And that's Domantas Sabonis, who's at 21 points, 13 rebounds, 6.5 assists. You know, the counting stuff has been almost the same year over year for him. Actually, the scoring is up by a point. The assists are a tiny bit down. Rebounds are still really good. I want to focus on one number with Sabonis, and that is 83% at the free throw line. Adam King, I don't believe that that number holds for Sabonis this year. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. I mean, no, sorry, agree with you. So I don't think it sticks. But I do think, I mean, what is he for his career? 70, 73, 74?
73.
I don't know. 73. I think he can be better than that.
Just to jump in on you, he's never had a season above 75. He's been like one of the most insanely consistently okay free throw shooters in the history of basketball. His rookie season, ignoring that year with the Thunder, in Indiana, he went 75, 72, 72, 73, 74, 70, and then he got traded to Sacramento. 74, 74, 70, dipped a little bit last year, and now he's at 83. Just to add a little bit of color to that discussion.
Yeah, and that's obviously a much larger sample size than 10 games this season, shooting 83%. So does he stick at 83? No. Can he be better than 75? I don't know. I guess the logical person in me says yes, because he is a good shooter. He's a good mid-range. He can hit mid-ranges. He doesn't hit a lot of threes, but he has nice form. So it makes sense that he should get better at free throws as he moves through his career. And to this point, that hasn't really happened. So I think it could be his best season over 75, but over 80, unlikely.
I am, for that reason, and I forgot to give my own opinion on that. For that reason, I don't know if you could sell him for any better than where you drafted him. He's number 11. He was drafted at like 14. So that's, I guess that's a little bit of a wash there. But if you could, I think, get someone else in the top 14 per game, this might be kind of a fun time to try to do it, but then it might also kind of muck up whatever you were building out of your team. So there's not a whole lot to be done there, I think. Next name on the list is Cade Cunningham, who's having a very polarizing start to his season. The counting stats are terrific. He's averaging 23 points, 7 boards, 8 assists so far this year. He's got actually 0.8 blocks. He's blocking more shots than he's rebounding. But he's been a weirdly kind of medium volume, not good foul shooter, and the turnovers are at 4.7. So that's dragged his overall rank down to number 69. Is there anything, Adam, that we can do with that information, having the really big counting stats, having the really, really bad turnovers, and then like the kind of strangely bad free throw shooting? Or do you think it's going to be too hard to pry him out of someone's hands because the points, the boards, and assists are as high as they have been?
Yeah, he's one of those players, I think, where you look at the glance at the box score and it looks incredible because he had 3 triple doubles in a row, I think, and then he was close to a triple double in the last game. And that's what people look at. A lot of people, they'll go, oh, he's scoring points, he's getting rebounds, he's getting assists. So probably going to be tough to buy low on him. If you're rostering him, you probably, I think probably the free throws are the biggest issue or the thing that stands out the most here. And I think the free throws will improve. But Detroit they are a better team. I know their record is not great, but they're better. They've got Tobias Harris there who's chugging along doing Tobias Harris things. Asar Thompson has been cleared, so he will be back at some point. Jaden Ivey's had some really good games. So they're better across the board now, so Cade doesn't have to do quite as much. He's sort of one of those players, I think, where the rank doesn't necessarily reflect people's opinion because he is ranked in the 70s or 80s or something. But most people would say, oh, no, he's having a pretty good year. And we drafted him at, what was he going, 35, 30, yeah, something in that range. And so I think he's probably going to be tough to move because he probably is, other than the free throws, meeting expectations.
Here's a fun one. Derrick White, who's been gifted an extra 2 shots per game this year. His usage has gone up the way that we kind of were hoping it would with Kristaps Porzingis out for a while. And then Jalen Brown also missing a few games here towards the front end of the year. And Derrick White is a first rounder right now on 19 points, 4.5 boards, 4.5 assists. But I mean, the big thing for him is the 19 points. That's been the big uptick, 2 extra shots per game this year. So the 3-pointer number's also gone up. His efficient scoring has been a larger positive this year. I don't like, so it's a sell high. I think we can mostly agree on that. But then the question is, do you get enough back to make it worthwhile? I'm not selling Derrick White for anything worse than like a top 25 range kind of guy. And so then that maybe makes me someone, maybe that makes it a hold for me. Where do you stand on Derrick White? Would you sell high? Are you willing to go lower on the return than I am?
I agree that I think he is a sell high because they haven't had Jalen Brown for half of the season. Kristaps Porzingis will be back potentially in a month. We don't know, but it's coming. So I think it is a sell high if you want to look at it that way. I think I don't think he can get better, but I would probably want at worst an early third rounder. So top 30, I wouldn't go any lower than that. And I think he's one of those players that you either think he's awesome or you're just not really interested. And so I think he'd probably be tough to move because I'm not sure, unless you found someone that was super high on him like you are and is willing to give you a top 20 player. So I think he is a sell high, but he's a tough one to move because he's not like a Cade Cunningham. He doesn't get you the 30-point games and do all the flashy stuff. He just gets you a steal and a block and a couple of threes, some assists, rebounds well, which doesn't jump off the page for a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes him a little bit tougher. What about Lauri Markkanen, next name on the board here? He's only averaging 16.7 points per game. I know he missed a couple of ball games with an injury. I'm sort of trying to ignore that for a moment. I mean, just before we even get into it, do we agree that there's a buy low opportunity here on him?
Yes.
Yeah. So now the question I'm going to ask is, what are you willing to give up to get Markkanen? And someone yelled at me either on a YouTube post or a Twitter thing or something. They were like, why would I? He's a shutdown risk. Why would I want anything to do with him? Well, so I get that from the draft standpoint, because you would have had to take him at about 28-ish range. And I don't think folks wanted it because of the fear. But now I feel like with this slow start, you might be able to get him for someone that's more of like a top 45 kind of guy. And I think I definitely would do that, because there's about 6 different things with Markkanen that look like they should be getting better. He's shooting 36.5% from the field. Terrible. He's playing only 29.5 minutes because of some injuries involved. He hasn't blocked a shot yet. Not that he's a big shot blocker, but he had like 25, 30 of them each of the last couple of years. And he has 0 so far this season. His rebounds are down because the minutes are lower because of the injury stuff. Again, there's like a million reasons to say this guy's going to go up. And the nice thing is, I don't think people know where he's going to finish. I still think he can be a top 25 per game guy. And despite the risk, if I can get that, giving up a top 45 kind of dude, I think I would do it. What's your move with Lauri Markkanen?
I do think he's a buy low. I probably wouldn't want to give up much. I mean, that's why I didn't draft him. Probably top 50 is who I would look to offer up, and it would probably be, if possible. I mean, I'd try and gauge whether his manager is frustrated, because that would make it a little bit easier. But I'm just looking at the ranks here and who's in that sort of top 50 range. I'd probably look to try and move someone that I would consider a sell high. So someone who, like OG Anunoby at the moment, is around the 40th ranked player. But I don't think he ends as the 40th ranked player. Brandon Miller is 46th. Cam Johnson, no brainer. Cam Johnson is the 51st ranked player, and I'd absolutely move him for Lauri Markkanen. But Tyrese Haliburton is the 50th ranked player. I would not move him for Lauri Markkanen. So it probably would depend on who I was looking at moving and what my opinion of their future is as well.
Jimmy Butler is currently shooting a high volume 73% at the free throw line. Adam, I'm not asking you whether or not that gets better. I think we all assume it will. I'm asking, how much better does it get for Jimmy Butler, and what do we do with that information?
He's someone I avoid at all costs.
You head-to-head player, you.
Yeah, he's and he's already injured. Yes, look, it gets better. I mean, he's one of those players I just have no idea what his rank looks like or anything, because I don't have him in a single team. So he's
122 right now. His free throws have been messy.
Yeah. Look, he absolutely gets better than that. And the question probably is health. How many games do we think he plays? Personally, he's not someone I'd be targeting at all. I'd give up a top 60 player, but that's
okay. We're going to spend an extra 20 seconds on Jimmy Butler. Would you rather have Rudy Gobert or Jimmy Butler?
Well, obviously, statistically, they're very different, but
True.
probably Rudy Gobert.
See, I think I'd rather have Jimmy. So we just made a trade. We just made a trade live on air, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. The trade was made. There's some other names that are nearby there as well. Ivica Zubac is like 3 slots back. Franz Wagner. I don't know. That one's a little bit of a wash, I guess. Jalen Brown is at 72. That's mostly because his field goal percent has been bad. So I don't know if we put him in the mix. Jakob Poeltl is in there as well. Who else might?
See, I'd have all these guys over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I think I'm going Butler over every one of those guys except maybe Jalen Brown. I think I'd go because I think his field goal percent improves. Who the hell is my next guy on the list? I lost track of what I was doing there, and my Jimmy Butler deep dive. Freddie VanVleet, let's get him out there because he's off to a wretched shooting start this year. Adam, where do you think Freddie VanVleet gets to this season? Does he still get into that top 25 range? Are we dialing it back a tiny bit? I mean, it's hard to say for sure because the start's been such a slow one, not just for him, but for like basically everyone on the Rockets shooting the basketball. That whole team has a field goal percent that you want to just throw out the window.
Definitely a buy low. I don't think we're at loggerheads there. I think that's pretty obvious. Does he get back to? He's a little bit Derrick Whitey in that he doesn't jump off the page with the big scoring nights. He just, because I think or whatever his last game was before he was injured, maybe he had 7 points, but he had like 7 assists, 3 steals, a block, some rebounds, a couple of threes. So he has the ability to put up value even when people don't think he is putting up value because he contributes elsewhere. They don't need him to score. The Rockets have a lot of players that like to score the basketball. So does he get back to top 25? Maybe sort of top 30. Definitely he'll be better, but this hamstring injury is part of the reason that I tend to avoid him. He's just had a history of these little injuries that cost him 2 weeks and 3 weeks. He's never had a significant knee injury or anything, or not that I can remember, that's cost him 3 months. But I don't know what his game log is. Oh, I can see it there on your screen. Has that got? Oh no, you'd have to scroll down just to see how many games he's played in seasons, in previous seasons.
Total games. There we go.
Yeah, total games. So 73, 69, 65, 52, 54, 64. So he's missing sort of 15 to 20 games, a lot of seasons. So yeah, I think he's a buy low. I don't, and he was being sort of underdrafted anyway. So he wasn't being taken as a top 15 player. He was typically available at 30 or 35. So I think he probably still gets back to that range.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on this one. Not only is the field goal percent down, the 3-point percent is down, the free throw percent is down. Turnovers are nice and low, I guess. Steals have been solid, expected, and the assists are lower. Part of that is because the ball maybe not be in his hands quite as often, but also if you look at like other Rockets so far this year, what's Jalen Green shooting from the field now? Where are you, Jalen Green? 39% for Jalen Green. Jabari Smith Jr. is shooting 39% from the field. That's like literally no one on this team can score. Dylan Brooks is shooting 39% from the field. VanVleet's at 37.5%. Alperen Sengun is the only starter for that team over 40% from the field, and he's at 48, which is low even for him. Rockets can't shoot. I don't know what they'd given him those new synthetic basketballs from like 8 years ago that the players all hated or something. But that whole team's going to start to shoot better, and it's going to reflect nicely on all of them because it's kind of that rising tide thing. A good game, and everybody puts up bigger numbers. Let's go to the next guy on the board. I don't want to spend too much time on Freddie. And that guy is DeMar DeRozan, who has literally not skipped a beat in moving over from Chicago to Sacramento. Adam, do you believe that continues? And then is that actionable in any way?
Yeah, look, he's, as you said, it's basically the DeMar DeRozan we've seen for the last, well, that's a lot of years, 15 years.
Look at all those years.
Yeah, it's a long career. He's fitted in really well. It's sort of, we knew that there was going to be some give and take here with Sabonis or Fox or DeRozan, bringing in a third sort of high usage player. And it's been, at the moment, it's probably been Fox who has taken the biggest hit, I want to say. DeRozan just looks like DeRozan. Is there anything we can do? I probably wouldn't. I think I'd just hold him, and because the sample size, as we can see on the screen, is big enough that we know exactly who he is and what he can do. And it looks like that's what he's going to continue to do.
You know, what's funny is that DeMar DeRozan might be a top 25 all-time scorer by the time this season's over. I was just looking at the number when we pulled up that colossal season log here, and it's like, oh my God, this dude's been putting up basically 20 points a game consistently for about 14 years in a row.
Yep.
He is currently number 29 all-time in NBA history in points scored at 23,855. Next name on the list in front of him is Allen Iverson. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, he's just dropped right in and he's taking 17 plus shots a game. I thought he would tip down to like 15 and a half, 16, something like that. And I figured he would still be a value, but this is truly spectacular. I do think the steals come down. I think the field goal percent probably also ticks down a little bit. His 3-point shooting's been particularly good so far this year. And again, like, I feel like that's a big duh because he's number 15 in 9-cat. I'm not taking anything back that's worse than top 40 for him right now. It looks like he's locked into what he did last year. If like maybe the teeny tiniest bit less potentially. But the Kings are playing competitive games, so his minutes are high. And I think you ride it out. I say ride it out. I think I'm right there with you. Next name on the list is, and we talked about him just a little bit earlier when we were talking about Donovan Mitchell, and that is Darius Garland, who is shooting the frickin' lights out so far this year. Great numbers, but more than anything, 53% from the field, 46% from three, 91 at the free throw line. Adam, is there an opportunity to sell on Darius Garland? I'm inclined to say yes, but is it enough to get the right amount back? Because he's currently number 21, and I guess I'll go first on this one because I keep putting you in the hot seat. I would sell Garland for someone inside the top 40. I think he tips back into that like 40 to 55, 60 range when the numbers level off. What about you? What do you think in terms of, are you riding? Are you selling? What would you be willing to take back on Darius Garland?
Combination of both. I think he is a sell high, but as you said, I would sort of be of the opinion that he's going to be much better than he was last year. So I wouldn't be saying, look, he's playing really well. I'll trade him for a top 60 player now because he's going to fall outside the top 70 or 80. I would be looking, probably top 40. I thought maybe top 50 in return. But, anything less than that, I think I'd just ride him out because I think Cleveland do need him to play well to succeed. If he doesn't, we've seen before they come up short. So last year we talked about this, not ad nauseum, but a lot through the preseason, is that he had a lot of weird injuries. He had, I think, 2 concussions. He had a neck thing.
Lost a bunch of weight and muscle mass and all of it.
Just he never got going last year, and now we're seeing probably what I thought he was going to do last year. We're seeing that this year. I think I'm with you there. I'd probably look. I'd consider options of players inside the top 40, but if someone's offering me a top 60 player, I'd just say thanks, but no thanks.
Yep. I almost screwed the pooch on this, but BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform. Sorry, sponsors, and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here a little later than initially planned, but no worse for the wear, I suppose. 2 more names, then we'll wrap this sucker up. This next one is a guy who turned an ankle, which is always a fear with him and has been for his brief but productive 2-year NBA career, and that is Jalen Duren, whose minutes are low, and that's what I want to focus on right now with you, Adam. Do you think Duren can get back where we want him to be? Because we've seen in the 2 games where he's cleared 30 minutes, he's put up some really nice, and specifically rebounding numbers. But he also has a game where he got hurt and played 7 minutes. He had a game where he fouled out in 11 minutes. He had a game where he just got dunked on, and his team got dunked on. And he played 18. What is the actual goal for Duren this year? Does it make him a buy low, or does it make him, as I talked about with like a Scotty or a Jalen Brunson, is he a sell before people start to think he's worse kind of situation. Where do you stand with Duren?
Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's probably one of the ones that thus far I was wrong on, because I thought I had him in that sort of top 50, top 60 range with your Rudy Gobert and who else was going? I can't remember who was going in that range. But yeah, had him in that range. And thus far, we've seen glimpses of what we expect. As you said, he's had a couple of good games with some high rebound numbers. He's had some multiple block games, which is really good to see, because that defensive sort of capability has been questioned throughout his career. The injury came at a really bad time. He was sort of on a downward trend, and then that continued that trend because he's not playing. I think he's questionable for tonight. I don't think we have an update at this point. And the fact that he's
better. That's better.
That's good. Yeah, it means it's not a multi-week absence or anything like that. I wouldn't think. So I guess you could consider selling him. I think he's probably one of those players where I just, again, I'd probably just be stubborn and say, no, I'm going to just see this through to the end, and what will be, will be. And luckily in all of the teams that I've got him in, I've punted so hard that I also have Anthony Davis, Walker Kessler, Rudy Gobert. And so not having Duren doesn't really impact me at all.
I think I'll go a step farther. I wasn't as high on him as you were this year, but I think he's a buy low. I think I would go out and try to get him, because I do think that people are starting to feel a little bit soured by the minutes bouncing around and the ankle injury and whatever. And last year he was number 75, and there's every reason to believe that he should get to that marker this season. I don't know if he moves beyond that, but the nice thing is he's at 140 right now, which means you could probably find someone in the 90s to give up, which still offers you a round and a half to 2 rounds of potential growth over what you're selling, and obviously a big jump over where he's at right now. Now, you can't go try to give up, a streaming Benedict Mathurin, because Aaron Nesmith is, you could try. I don't think it's going to work, but you could look for someone else in that range. I would happily give up DeAndre Ayton for Jalen Duren right now, because Ayton looks equally bad to me on a team that I think is trying less than Detroit and has 3 centers. There's legitimate viable backups there. And so there are other names in that range. If Wendell Carter Jr. wasn't hurt, he'd be one I'd throw out there. Terry Rozier is a name I would throw out. See if you can go get Jalen Duren for someone in that 95 to 105 range, because I do think he gets back there and then maybe a tiny bit further. And the last name on the board is, and man, I owe this player a massive apology, because after about 95 consecutive seasons of me saying, what do you mean? This guy's the logo of the Dan Besbris Old Man Squad. This year I finally was I'm a little bit worried, and I didn't draft Vooch, at least not everywhere. I think he was fine to take in that 60 range, but I didn't target him this year. I waited for him to maybe come to my team, and now he's a first rounder. So I'm so sorry, Vooch. I doubted you, but also, Vooch, you're shooting 59% so far this year. So, Adam, we're in this pocket again of can we get enough selling him right now, or was there enough skepticism that it's not worth it and we should just ride it out? I would try to sell Vooch for a top 40 guy, and that would satisfy me. I don't think I'd take back less. If someone offered me less, I think I would ride it out. I know I haven't put his face up on the screen yet. It's because I'm looking for his Yahoo profile page, but I'll get him up there when you're talking. What are you doing with Vooch right now? Are you holding? Are you selling? What are you willing to take back? And this, again, is our last player of the show.
Yes, he is a sell high, quite obviously. What would I take? Probably much like you, I think top 40, just because we know that that's who Vooch is. He's been a top 40 player forever. He hasn't been there were a few years there where he was up in the top 15, top 20, but at this point in his career, he's probably a top 50, top 40 player. He's been shooting phenomenally well. It's going to cool off at some point, and it could cool off hard, because it could be that he goes for 5 games in a row where he just can't hit anything, and he's the 200th ranked player, because he doesn't get a lot of defensive stuff So he doesn't have a lot to fall back on when his shot is not falling, other than the rebounds. He's always been a good rebounder. If his shots aren't falling, it means he's not hitting threes. He's not scoring. We know he's not really getting a lot of blocks or steals. So he could go from wherever he is, first round, to outside the top 100 quite quickly. So I think it is the time to sell high, but I wouldn't be... Yeah, I probably wouldn't go lower than top 50, top 40, maybe top 50.
Kingy, what are you working on these days? Hit me with a promo.
What am I working on? Just my show. I've said we're in the grind. So the Balls Deep show, which is basically daily. It depends what I have on. So I like this weekend. It won't be a show on a Friday post game show because I have to take my daughter to a concert. And that's a day trip, kind of like staying overnight concert. So I won't be home. But yeah, just have that coming out. A couple of articles a week with RotoWire, and lots of stuff on Twitter.
Beautiful. Everybody should be checking it out. He's at AdamKing91 on social media. I went a few minutes longer than my intention, but we got through all 17 of the lightning round names. And I haven't come up with a fun name for the show either, but I'll figure that out between now and when it gets posted. Adam, my man, thank you, good sir.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And everybody else, we'll see you guys when we see it. Tomorrow we'll recap our Tuesday show, or our Tuesday card. Wednesday, we also like to get into the players that moved the most over the previous week. So we'll do a little update on that tracking board. And that's that for Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball today. I'm Dan Besbris. Follow us all on social. Again, he's AdamKing91. I'm at Dan Besbris. Like, rate, subscribe on your way out. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow. So long for now, everybody.